How's it going, you awesome bunch of bakers? I hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a sweet treat for you, a really unique brownie recipe. So let's go to the kitchen and check it out. If you've ever thought that chocolate brownie is a little bit boring, then I have a solution for you. These Rocky Road chocolate brownies are next level. We have a nice gooey chocolate brownie base, topped with kind of a chocolate hazelnut cheesecake layer, then a layer of marshmallow, and to finish it all, we have a nice shiny chocolate icing on top. Creamy, crunchy, gooey, chocolatey goodness. Once again, I have to thank my most prolific baking buddy Lan for the recipe. This is another winner. Okay, let's get to it. Let me show you how they're made. Starting with the ingredients for the brownie base. We'll need some chocolate, butter, sugar, flour, eggs, and a little bit of salt. You can use pretty much any chocolate that you like. I'm using milk chocolate. Dark chocolate would work well too. Okay, next for the cheesecake layer, we'll need some cream cheese, some hazelnuts, or any other nuts that you like. We'll need some more chocolate, sugar, butter, and an egg. When it comes to the choice of sugar, that is also up to you. You can use dark sugar if you want to. Next for the chocolate icing, we'll need some butter, chocolate, cream cheese, a little bit of milk, and some icing sugar. And there's just one more ingredient that we need, that is the marshmallow. Now ideally you want to find some mini marshmallows. These bad boys are a little bit too chunky for this recipe, but I do have a solution. They can be snipped into smaller pieces using scissors. They are extremely sticky, so using a knife would be a pain. Drop them in icing sugar and then toss them around to cover the exposed surfaces. And that is one way to cut marshmallows. Okay, with the ingredients out of the way, let's look at the equipment that we'll need. We'll need a bowl, scales, a spatula, a whisk, and a sieve for sifting the icing sugar. We'll also need a pan. This will serve a few purposes. We'll use it for toasting the hazelnuts, melting the chocolate and the butter for the brownie base, and we'll use it for making the glaze too. And finally, we'll need something to bake the brownies in. I'm using my trusty Lloyd's Pans pizza pan. It measures at around 8.5 inches or 22 centimeters long, 6.5 inches or 16 centimeters wide, and 2 inches or 5 centimeters deep. You could easily use a tray that's double the size and make brownie squares instead of making brownie bars like I did. To prevent the brownie from sticking to the tray, line it with some non-stick baking paper. Cut a piece that is larger than the tray, cut some diagonal lines from the corners, and then drop it in there. Once you're ready to make brownies, start by preheating the oven to 160 degrees Celsius, fan on, and that's 320 Fahrenheit. Whilst the oven is preheating, we can toast the hazelnuts. Drop them in the pan, set it on high heat, and then toast for around 5 minutes. Once they have browned and they start smelling nice and toasty, they're ready. And of course you can use any nuts that you like, or even use some seeds. If they are a bit chunky like the hazelnuts I'm using, then crush them up a little bit using a pestle and mortar, or chop them up with a knife. I find that the pestle and mortar is the best way to do it. It's just so much quicker than the knife. Okay, after the nuts have been toasted, we can make the cheesecake layer. In a bowl, combine the cream cheese, the chocolate, the egg, the sugar, the butter, and the toasted hazelnuts, and then mix until smooth. The mix will be quite runny, but don't be alarmed, that's totally normal. It will set as it bakes. By the way, if you want less sweetness, you can easily reduce the amount of sugar in this part. Right, once the cheesecake mix is ready, leave it on the side. Now we can move on to the brownie base. I have simplified my original recipe here. Instead of mixing the eggs and the sugar separately, and then adding the flour and the salt, just combine all the ingredients from the get-go. There is no need to mix them separately. This way, it will turn out just as well. Okay, leave that on the side. Let's move on to melting the butter and the chocolate. Combine the ingredients in a pan, place it on medium heat, and then leave to melt. Stir it occasionally until it's all melted and well combined. Alternatively, combine the ingredients in a bowl and then melt them in a microwave. I'm only showing you how to do it in a pot because not everyone owns a microwave. Okay, once it's all nicely melted, pour the chocolate and butter mix into the egg, flour, salt, and sugar mix. And then whisk until it's all combined. And that is how easy it is to make a brownie base. It could take no more than 5 minutes, including weighing out all the ingredients. A chocolate brownie is one of the easiest things you could ever bake. Okay, let's start assembling this thing. Pour the brownie batter in your non-stick paper lined baking tray. Then pick the tray up, swirl it around a bit and make sure the brownie goes into all the corners. Next, take the cheesecake mix and slowly pour it all over the brownie base. Try to distribute it as evenly as you can by pouring it. Finally, you can use the spatula to spread out the chocolate and hazelnuts more evenly if you need to. Okay, this thing is ready for the oven, even though we are still missing 2 layers. The initial bake will take around 35 minutes, just like my original brownie recipe. Once it's all nicely puffed up and the surface has browned, you can take it out the oven and then move on to the next step. which is covering it with marshmallow. Now I have to say, the brownie with just the cheesecake layer is a perfectly good dessert in its own right. You could just stop here and forget about the marshmallows and the icing. But if you are going the marshmallow way, pop the brownie back into the oven for another 5 minutes of baking. And whilst it's in there, we can move on to making the final element, and that is the chocolate icing. And for that, once again, we're going to use the pan. Combine the chocolate, the butter, the cream cheese and the milk. Set it on medium heat and leave it to melt. And again, you could just do this in a microwave if you wanted to, but whatever you do. Once everything is melted and the mix is nice and even, we can add the final ingredient, the icing sugar, and then whisk until smooth, one last time. If your mix feels a bit too runny for any reason, add a little bit more icing sugar. Okay, let's leave this on the side and check on the marshmallow top brownie. The marshmallows should swell up and fill all the gaps between them, creating a more or less even layer that we can pour the icing on top of. And that's exactly what we're going to do as soon as the brownie comes out of the oven. Pour the icing gradually and evenly all over the surface. If you're going to use a tray with a larger footprint, you should increase the amount of icing mix. Okay, let's leave this to cool down at room temperature for around 1 hour. And once it has cooled down a little bit, move it to the fridge and then leave it to cool down until it's completely set. That way, it'll be much easier to remove it from the baking tray. It will lower the risk of damaging it, and it will make it a lot easier to cut. Speaking of cutting something, at this point I was regretting not cutting the baking paper slightly larger. There was almost nothing to grab onto to pull the brownie out of the tray, but I did manage in the end. Okay, remove the brownie from the tray, peel off all the baking paper, take a sharp knife, and then start by trimming off the edges. Of course, you don't have to trim them off, it is just for looks at the end of the day. I ended up cutting this brownie into 12 bars. You could cut it easily into 14 or even 16 pieces, or perhaps even more. One of the 12 bars was around 100 grams, and that is a hefty portion. That is between 600 to 700 calories in just one piece. A whole meal's worth of calories in one bar. I did have to skip dinner after eating this one, but I definitely don't regret it. It is so delicious, but it is easy to get carried away here. So if you're ever going to make this, share it with several people. Brownies can be modified in many ways. This is just one of them. There are many more creative ways of doing it. So if you have a modified brownie idea, share it in the comments down below. I'm curious to see how you like to do it. Don't forget that you can share pictures of your bakes on our Flickr group, link down below, and check out our friends on the breadboard for more great baking information. You'll find the link for it in the pinned comment below. So what do you think this brownie recipe? And what's your favorite brownie modification? Let me know down in the comments. You want to see more videos like this one? Click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.